So this is the What to Watch segment where I tell you cool things to watch on streaming and of various streaming services. I don't just pick one. I just kind of talk about stuff that I watched recently that I didn't do reviews of, that I just want to tell you about and recommend that you can watch. And tonight I have special guest O the Anthem podcast. I go way back with Rob and Corey. I knew Corey from high school. Rob I met in 2003 when we made a short film together, meeting an old friend. They're great guys. They have a great podcast going over current events and so forth. And I've been listening to that, I think, since it started, basically. I'm not as regular as I used to be, but you should check it out. They stream usually Monday nights or Sunday, but subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. However, I'm going to go over my picks first, and then it will cut to them. Here is some recommendations and stuff I watch that I recommend on streaming. So two things on a bunch of things on HBO Max, but first thing, With Nail and I is on HBO Max. It is a British film that I had not seen until recently. I've been wanting to see it. With Nail and I, which is a British film, it's sort of like a British hangout movie, basically. These two actors who go to a kind of country house in England. It has Richard Curtis, who I realized after watching this, I was like, where did I really see Richard Curtis from? Like, probably a cool movie. I'm like, no, it's Spice World. It's a pretty cool movie. I think it actually probably influenced a lot of the hangout films from the 90s, and it's definitely a cool thing to watch. There's a gay character that I think is a little, how they play that is a little questionable. However, I do think it's a real great movie. It stars Richard Curtis and the doctor from the American Doctor Who. Or that Fox show, if you remember that. I will also watch Broadcast News, which is also on HBO Max. I mainly saw it because of the Polly Platt series that You Must Remember This did, and I'd never seen it. It was actually really good, talking about a newsroom and this woman who's caught between Albert Brooks and William Hurt, and it's really wonderful. James L. Brooks directed it, who you probably know from producing The Simpsons, but I thought it was a good kind of adult drama. I kind of was like, you guys are messy, but it it was really compelling. Like, I haven't seen many films that are like adult that also like move and flow very well, and that one definitely did. My big thing on Hulu is MODOK. I really like MODOK. I've seen 9 of the 10 episodes. I think it's really wonderful. I know everyone wants me to watch Invincible. I have not, but I have watched MODOK, and every time I have a long day at work, I sit down and watch MODOK, and I don't know, relate, I guess. I'm not sure, but I love MODOK. It is a really great I don't know, I just think it's really great. I think it's being under talked about, really. I think it's a really wonderful cartoon, and probably my favorite Marvel show, I'd say, currently, of the new batch at least. Starstruck on HBO Max. I actually watched this when it was airing in England. We were like torrenting and stuff, and it's actually a cool show. It's sort of like a Notting Hill type thing, or a regular person who falls in love with a movie star. I don't know forget the comedic actress who leads it, but it's a wonderful little show. It's only 6 episodes. It just went on HBO Max this week, which I didn't know it was going to. 2 movies I watched with Sophie recently. One is Ibra, I believe, Horror of the Deep, which that is on HBO Max, but the English dub is on YouTube, or also called Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. It's a fun little Godzilla movie, not the greatest. It's good. You have a good time. Mothra is really sold as being in it, but Mothra just is basically just transportation for people in it. Mothra does very little of anything, which is disappointing. But it's a fun movie. If you've never checked it out, I would recommend it if you like Godzilla movies. It's not like if you haven't seen a Godzilla movie, do not watch it first. But if you like them, it's worth a watch. The Little Fugitive, I think I talked about it last time, but I watched that with Sophie as well. It's a very influential 1953 film about a little kid who runs away to Coney Island after he believes he killed his brother. He didn't. It became very influential on New York independent film, including John Cassavetes and Stanley Kubrick. Really liked it and everything like that, by a still photographer who basically like made a kind of steady cam rig with a small kind of commercial camera and made this film with it, and was able to actually capture Coney Island in the 50s in a way people were surprised by. It's a really great movie. You can find it on YouTube, as well as you can also find it on Canopy if you have that. But if you don't have Canopy or want to pay for it or whatever, it's on YouTube. I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. I have filmed a review of it. I do not know when it's going to come out, but you should I definitely recommend it. I think it's actually one of the most wonderful little movies. I just think it's and it also very much influential on the French New Wave and Francois Truffaut's 400 Blows. Droids is on Disney Plus in the Star Wars retro vintage whatever section. I remember it being a fun cartoon, but this is just to let you know it's there, because it was, I think, the first time it's really been on streaming in good quality. Two YouTube things. There's a channel, it's been on Facebook as well, called Mtv Vault. They take old MTV news footage and put it out on there. They had like Cindy Crawford talking to Adam Sandler and Chris Farley while they were on SNL. They had behind the scenes, like at the after party of the MTV Music Awards, I believe in '85. Like a lot of kind of interesting stuff. If you're interested in older MTV, it is a great YouTube channel. They also have a Facebook and Facebook videos thing, but that I recommend if you're interested. I'm finding you can find some MTV stuff, and more of that is coming out on YouTube, because I've heard there's like actually people going like, hey, like, what happened to these hours of MTV? You guys, I want my MTV, guys. Like, let's let out. And I have to acknowledge, Quentin Reviews put out the Fred video and the iCarly video in a week. I think he put out like 7 hours plus of content in a week. That guy is insane. I haven't finished the iCarly video. I'm like slowly watching it. The Fred video was great. I've always liked Quentin. He barely knows me, but I think he's a great YouTuber, and he wonderful videos he's putting out lately. Book of Life is on Disney Plus. I love Book of Life. Might as well put it on here. Kung Fu Panda is on Tubi. So if you've wanted to watch Kung Fu Panda and don't want to pay for a streaming service, you can watch it. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, I also watched on HBO Max recently. That is an amazing parody movie. It is sometimes doesn't age the greatest, but it, for the most part, is a really hilarious like kind of parody of biopics. Denzel Curry Unlocked, which is on YouTube, is a really great hip-hop animated film, which I reviewed recently. I wanted to throw that in there. Adventure Time Distant Lands is also on HBO Max, and Predestination I found on Tubi. It is a great kind of trans time travel story. If you're like, the trailer doesn't say that, trust me, it is awesome. You should see it. I definitely keep remembering that movie. I think I was like not too enthusiastic. I forget what my review was, but you should check that out. Anyway, that's what I'm going to pick for my What to Watch segment. Now let's go to Corey and Rob, talk about what they suggest to watch on streaming this month, and thank you to them for doing this.
What are you guys doing here? This is Corey, and this is the O the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob, and it is the O the Anthem podcast, but we are here doing a special episode-ish thing.
A little drop in.
Yeah, a little drop in.
Little cameo.
Movie Crap Live.
We're here for sweeps.
You have seen, obviously it's sweeps. That's why he brought in the big guns from, the O the Anthem podcast. But you've seen my face before. Obviously, I was doing the 5 things to watch last year during the pandemic. And, I can only carry so many shows a week. I already carry the O the Anthem podcast week after week after week. So I said, you know what? I'm tired. We should bring Corey in this time, and he can give you some other things that you should watch.
Well, to be fair, I did this once too, and I'm not to say that the internet has cooled down yet, but it's making its way back to normal temperatures after my appearance. So we got
the
5.
The anger just caused the heat to rise. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I should have thought of less less controversial picks. Which we'll do this.
This ain't gonna be the one. This ain't gonna be the one. Go ahead. Yeah, let's let them hear it.
Let's roll through. We both have a top 5 here of things to watch on streaming services.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if people haven't seen the show, then obviously they're gonna know that we don't agree on everything. We don't agree on a lot. Especially as time has gone on, you'll find that your friends don't always agree with you on things. So we tried to come up with a list of just 5, and I have some knife marks here on my forearm that will show how that went. So instead, what we decided to do was go 5 for each of us. So you'll get 5 from Corey and 5 from me, things to watch on streaming.
So my number 5 pick, it's really easy if you're a classic movie aficionado like me and a pretentious filmmaker like me to just make a list of 5 classic films and like hoard it over people. Like if they haven't seen it, then they're like a bad cinephile of some sort of kind. But I chose not to do that.
Your living girlfriend, the one that hasn't seen a bunch of his movies.
What do you mean you haven't seen this? Some random movie from the 1930s. I will say to her on an almost nightly basis. But I'm not going to do that, this whole list, except for this one pick, which is Chinatown. And the reason why I'm picking Chinatown is because I am about to move from the apartment that we've been doing this podcast from for quite a long time to a new place in Chinatown, and I will absolutely be watching Chinatown at some point after the move to see it again and get all caught up. I think I've watched it like twice since we're in LA already, so like I don't need a special reason. But if you haven't seen Chinatown in a long time, I highly suggest you go check it out. It's on Paramount Plus right now.
And if you're a reasonable person who doesn't have Paramount Plus because you're not going to pay for that service, well, apologies. You're going to be able to watch it.
They have a special. They get like a 30-day free or something like that. And listen,
okay.
We were discussing this before. We don't think Paramount Plus is like a must-have streaming service, but like the Good Fight's coming out soon. If you're a Star Trek person, there's things you could fill the 30-day free trial with. It doesn't just have 100%. To be Chinatown.
If you are a 40 to 55-year-old female, Paramount Plus has exactly what you're looking for.
If CBS speaks to you as a person, then Paramount Plus is where you need to be.
Also, Corey, you're moving to, let's call it Chinatown adjacent. So is there a Chinatown adjacent historic movie that we can talk about? Or
no,
I remember he was in Chinatown. So
the neighborhood is called Dogtown, but it's not like the Dogtown from Dogtown and Z-Boys. I wish it was, because then I would just recommend that. But I don't know where that's streaming either, so...
moving on to my the most important side, which is my pick, and I didn't give these any particular order. I think it's impossible to take such a varied list, which I had to prune down a lot. I think I started with 20 or 25 things to get them down to 5. So in no particular order, but more about what I've seen most recently and which moved me most recently. Mar of Easttown on HBO, specifically HBO Max. It is not going to be for everybody. It is a slow burn. I work with a lot of Gen Zers and millennials, like early millennials. Like I found out that an intern who works for me was born, Corey, the year we graduated high school. So I promptly went and threw myself onto the freeway after finding that out. But she was mentioning it and she didn't like it. And I was like, oh, well, this is exactly the difference between generations. It takes 2 episodes to really get going into the story. Not that it's not interesting, but it's like, what are we even watching? What am I watching here? Like, she's a cop. I get that. What's going on? There's a murder. Okay, great. It's a murder. It's about a murder. And then it's about other murders related to that murder. And it's more specifically about this cop who is the daughter of a cop named Mary Ann or Mary Beth. I'm not really sure, but Mare is short for in Pennsylvania.
Yes, yeah.
Mare. And for those of you who are on the East Coast, you may know Corey and I are from Maryland. There is a moment where I lived the Leo meme of Mare comes out in an Ocean City, Maryland sweatshirt, and I just sat up like, I know that sweatshirt. I know that place. I know there.
Well, I mean, our buddy Jim can speak to that too, having spent some time in the old line state.
Absolutely.
Moving on to
and a senior week at Ocean City, likely.
Probably at some point. Or at the very least, just a trip to Ocean City.
Right, yeah.
My number 4, it's been a really hard year for a lot of people. And I think, if nothing else, we need to have more opportunities to laugh. Somebody had asked me about, like, my top, what's my favorite comedy of all time recently. And I shot out a movie, but then since then I've been throwing ones through. And then when I saw this on streaming on Prime Video, I was like, this has to go on the list. Dodgeball, a true underdog story. If you haven't seen it, please run, do not walk to your nearest streaming device and watch this, because it is a classic comedy and you will be quoting it constantly for the rest of your life. If you're anything like anyone I know who watches this movie, it's just to me, the real sign of a classic comedy is how many different lines from the movie you and your friends can parrot back at one another over the course of 20 or 30 minutes. And this movie is endlessly quotable.
Or years, in the case that we've been doing that for the last 20 years. So,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
We still say that to each other. Still.
It's a constant refrain.
if you are wondering, yes, Corey's list is going to be a list of movies that frame toxic masculinity in a positive light that we didn't realize at the time when we watched them. So Chinatown and Dodgeball right off the bat. Killing the game, Corey. Killing the game. So moving in a different direction, away from toxic masculinity and into, an entire mind fuck. The one movie I wanted to see in 2020 that I wasn't able to see in the theaters because I don't remember. There was something going on that we weren't able to get to the theater in 2020. I can't. Pandemic. The huge pandemic that shut everything down that is now over, luckily. But Tenet. I wanted to see Tenet, and it came out on streaming, and I held it, and I said, no, I want to go see it in the theater. Tenet was the very first movie I saw when theaters reopened here in LA, and it is available on HBO Max. And if you haven't seen it, but you like Christopher Nolan, or you like any big universe, kind of like Interstellar or The Matrix, or anything that is action and makes you think a lot, you're gonna like. Looper, which I just also watched recently. All of those things. Tenet is all of those wrapped up into one, and it's done so amazingly. There is, not a spoiler, but there is a scene where it is a fight happening, and they shot it forwards and backwards, both. And then when you watch it, you don't realize until later that that's what they did, and you're like, oh my God. It just blows your mind. And although you probably can't see it on the big screen anymore, again, you can see it on streaming, and I recommend everybody watch it. It will be one of those things that, like, it's going to be a Christopher Nolan movie where we're going to talk about it forever because it's going to be that kind of movie.
I still need to see it. I wanted to see it on the theater, and then I realized that I might have lost my opportunity to do so.
Do you ever have friends who don't go see these crazy big movies like Chinatown or, Tenet, and you just want to judge them? I'm going to try not to judge, so.
Thank you. Well, judge me on this next one, if you will. My number 3 on the list. We in my household, we watch a lot of documentaries, and it seems like 90% of them these days are about the trifecta of murder or serial killers or poor legal representation. And I wanted to give something that was a little bit lighter, like something that's not quite so heavy. Again, coming out this pandemic time, we're all a little sensitive. So Screwball is this documentary about baseball steroid crisis. And I know if those words immediately out of my mouth sound like I couldn't care less about this shit. I will say this one is done in a way that is very interesting to people who are potentially non-baseball fans. And specifically, the way they shoot it is with having kid actors sort of do recreations of the things that the people are describing, the interviewees are describing throughout the documentary. It makes it a super enjoyable watch. It also probably didn't cost that much money to put together, which is always a benefit if you're the filmmaker.
Except shooting with kids.
Yeah, well, the shooting with kids. But then, you don't actually have to have them do lines. Like, they're just reacting. So you could probably shoot that out in an afternoon without too much trouble.
Sure,
but yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides the besides the ins and outs of working with kids, I think that Screwball was a really fun watch. And if you're looking for something a little bit lighter, outside of your Hotel Cecil's or staircases or whatever, go ahead and check out Screwball.
And where's that available?
That is on Netflix. Sorry.
Netflix, yeah. Well, for my third movie, I also chose a doc. I tried to get some very different things for you guys this time around. This doc, also not your typical doc. I liked it because of the title and because of the description, but it was not what it purported to be. And that is Sasquatch on Hulu. Basically, the description says a former investigative journalist and now documentarian goes back to the Pacific Northwest to Northern California, to the Emerald Triangle, which is like the best marijuana growing area in the country. And he is investigating a story he heard when he was in there in the early 90s about Sasquatch killing 3 people. And if you've ever read a headline that basically every word, the one after another, you're just like, I have no idea where this headline is going or what it's going to end on. This movie, or it's actually not a movie, it's a series. It's a limited series with 4 or 5 episodes, I think, is that every 12 or 15 minutes. I'm like, what am I watching? I turned on a documentary about Sasquatch, and now we are talking about the Hells Angels, like offing somebody in a dock in San Francisco. I don't know how we got here, but it's all interconnected and it all makes sense at the end. It does wrap up relatively nicely. So I highly recommend.
My favorite thing about that doc was like I literally thought I was sitting into like a sort of like an unsolved mysteries version of like what's going on with Sasquatch since the photo, basically what's been happening since then. And like I stuck around for like 40 minutes and I was just like, I don't think they're going to talk about the Sasquatch much at all in this series. But it's really good. It is really good. Even if it's not what you're looking for going in, it certainly hooks.
Also, if you were a kid of the 90s and you remember that like senior in high school / guy from college who is just a burnout and you're wondering what he's doing now, he is an investigative journalist who's making documentaries about Sasquatch, because the lead guy he looks like and sounds like the kind of guy who smoked a lot of weed in the 90s and then got deep in with the secret marijuana growers back then. It's very good. Very good.
Yeah. Number 2 on my list, I wanted to find a movie that is one of those. This to me sort of epitomizes what I want in a streaming movie. If you haven't seen it and you're looking for something to watch tonight with your friends while you're eating dinner or something like that, The Founder, which was released only a couple years ago and never really got like a lot of love in like awards or like end of year lists, I feel like, but was one of those flicks that just sort of stuck with me and has kind of like become like a constant rotation thing that I put on when I can't think of anything else to put on sometimes. Like it's in that list of movies that just sort of, I can put it on, I can walk away, I can come back in. It's enjoyable all throughout the entire thing. It's a great like biopic like they used to make in the 90s but don't make so much anymore. Like every biopic these days has to be about like how this person saved the world, and Ray Kroc isn't like that big of a deal. Like he just founded McDonald's kind of, but it's a wonderful flick.
Amazing cast too.
Great cast, and yeah, again, the type of thing you wouldn't think you would necessarily be interested in going in, like Ray Kroc founding McDonald's, but it's a really fascinating story and great performances, so go check that out as well. And that is on 100%. Netflix.
Excellent, yeah. So for my next, I guess what is the word I always mess up, which means the next to last, but it sounds like it means the best. Penultimate, yes, the penultimate choice. I knew I wanted to include in this something involving superheroes. I've been watching a lot of superheroes. Some like close follows and things that you guys should check out. I've recommended to people at work a show called Jupiter's Legacy, which was really good, but then it got canceled. So now I tell people don't watch it because it ends on a cliffhanger that we're never going to find out what the result is. So don't. And of course, Disney has the Marvel Universe. WandaVision was very good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier were both very good. But the far and above my favorite that I've watched recently is not a live action superhero show. It is a show on Amazon called Invincible. It's about a kid who basically finds out that finds himself getting powers. So it's like the story that everybody wants to have, like Superman, except for very much for Gen Z. This guy's working at a fast food place, and then he goes to throw the trash bag into the dumpster, which, Corey, I know you and I know I have both had that experience of like, I'm going to see how far I can throw and still get it in there. He does that.
You say right before the bag breaks and you have to clean it all up, which we've also both been to, like that moment.
Yes. So he does a version of that and then launches the bag into space. And he's like, oh, I guess I'm getting my powers. And he takes on the superhero name Invincible, which they use at the intro of every episode. Like, oh, that kid? Yeah. They call him, and then like Invincible, the title card comes up. And it's like, it's really good. Like, it's done really well. But his dad is actually, I'll leave. His dad is superhero too. It's not a surprise. But the parents are like waiting for him to see whether he's going to get powers or not, because his dad's super and his mom is not. So it is complex. It is a cartoon, which you wouldn't think a lot of these things are going to work together, but I can guarantee you, if you see any memes at all in your regular life, you have seen a meme from this show. One of the favorite ones that I have seen is there is a jet that flies past the two guys as they are like kind of flying or just like standing in air. And from the show, the line is, "Look at what they have to do to replicate even a minuscule amount of our power." And they've taken that screen cap and then put it with a picture instead of planes flying of like really super complex vibrators. And so it's like one guy talking to another about how, look what they have to do to have a minuscule amount of our power. So if you've seen that, you've seen something from Invincible, or a guy in a costume with like two fists standing over like a really bloodied guy, also from that show. Very good. Watch it. You're going to end up binging it, so make sure you clear your afternoon.
Well, and if nothing else, you have to understand where all the memes are coming from. So we have to put that on the
I am
list.
not going to lie. I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be good. I got into a thread on Reddit that literally every other post was pictures from this cartoon. And then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do what I always have to do because I'm old, and Google, and I did a reverse Google search of the image. And the fourth or fifth result was the Amazon show. All of the top results were like top memes of the week. Jesus Christ. By the way, Chungy is a new thing, Corey. So you're Chungy, by the way.
Oh, well, I've never
look
been
that up
so,
on Urban Dictionary.
I've never been so honored/offended. On to the number one on my list. Listen, I was trying to keep it light. I was trying to keep it fun. But unfortunately, at the end here, I have to go with The Killjoy, which is a documentary that's on HBO Max called Crime of the Century, which is about the opioid crisis. And one of the more enjoyable things I've seen here recently. Now, I realize that there are other things out there that I have not seen that a lot of people that I respect are talking greatly about. I will see those things, and maybe this will get beat out. But Crime of the Century is an epic doc by Alex Gibney, who does all my favorite docs these days. And it's one of those things, like, we look back on it now, the whole opioid crisis, and we should have seen all the warning signs, like all the Jersey walls that were just busted through by pharmaceutical companies. And it's unbelievable that we didn't, and that we find ourselves in this situation now where there's like nothing we can do about it. We've just created thousands of drug addicts who will never get properly clean because of corporations and money. And yeah, it's a bummer, but it's definitely something worth seeing because there are parts of the rise of the opioid that I didn't even realize until I saw this doc. So, and I'm a pretty well connected person with the news, so definitely worthy of checking out on HBO Max. I think it's like a 2-part doc, so check it out.
I believe it is. I watched it as well, and it is very good. But we are about to do episode 376 of the podcast. So that's 376 consecutive weeks of content. Never missed a week. Every time, something new every Monday. If you guys are interested, you can check that out. But I say that to say, episode 4 of the podcast, we did an episode on marijuana where we were making comparisons to how non-dangerous it is, even compared to things that are legal, like alcohol and opioids. And even then, 7 years ago, 7-ish, 6, something like that. We've been doing it a long time. We didn't know the extent of what was going to come, the wave that was cresting behind us on this opioid crisis. And now we are, I don't even think we're at the peak. We're probably just in the middle of the wave. But Alex Gibney does an excellent job on that documentary. Corollary to yours, there's a one also on Netflix called The Pharmacist. I don't think it's nearly as well done as a documentary, but the characters, but the people in it are characters. It's about a dad who his son overdoses, and then he starts to learn, much like we do when we watch Alex Gibney's doc about the opioid crisis. And just like, he's like, I had no idea any of this was going on. So imagine, Corey, your dad or my dad, diving deep into an investigation on opioids and then talking to a camera in reactive shots. It's amazing. Well, I didn't know the drugs were a problem. I just assumed drug addicts were drug addicts, and Mary down the block just was lazy. I don't know. That's my.
I've learned so much.
Okay, so before I give my last one, I did this one last time I was on giving my 5 things to watch, and I feel like I need to do it for this too. Corey and I have talked about a couple of these things. But an honorable mention goes to Peacock Network and most of the shows on it. And by that I mean the streaming service Peacock. I have watched and I've recommended to Corey Girls 5 Eva, Rutherford Falls, a show called Intergalactic, and another one called Brave New World. The difficulty is they have this weird model where they're going to show you 3 episodes and then put the rest behind the paywall. And I'm not going to pay for Peacock at this. I paid for too much at this point. You cut the cord to get away from cable, and we're going to end up paying more than cable before we're done with it. But if you have Peacock already, those shows, from what I saw of them, were very good, and you should check them out. And it was worthwhile just to watch the free episodes because they were entertaining and it filled an afternoon if you have nothing else to watch. But and if you know you're richer than me and you want to just throw in another $5.99 a month on another streaming service, check it out there. But Peacock has a lot of good stuff. Or you can do what Corey does, which is just wait to get a free week or a free month of something and then like binge everything he wants to watch during that period. And then forget and pay for it, like CBS All Access.
Yeah, like $60 later of Paramount Plus.
There we go. So my last pick, and I had switched this up on you, Corey. I apologize, but I feel like we saw this together, if I remember, and it didn't make either of our lists, and it was worthwhile. We needed to bring it up. The Little Things, which I know was a mixed reaction amongst the people we watched it with, but you have 3 award-winning actors in a movie that I honestly couldn't figure out as we went along. I wasn't sure what everybody was doing or who everybody was or what their stories were. And then half the people in the room didn't understand the reference in the last scene. And I was just like, okay, so clearly this is a smart person's movie because I get it. The fact that nobody else does is beyond them. So I think everybody should watch it. And then if you don't understand the reference in the last scene, just know that I'm smarter than you. And I'm walking around with all of this all of the time.
The unbearableness is also part of having to do this podcast with Rob, just dealing with the constant, the walking around with this, the whole thing.
Absolutely.
If you've been enjoying this, though,
that's on Hbo Max.
If you've been enjoying this, though, and you would like to hear more of us, we do this every Tuesday at O the Anthem, and you can find that on YouTube and anchor.fm/O the Anthem, which is the easiest way to find links to the podcatcher that you listen to the show on. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and iLegendsTV5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And I have a YouTube channel of things as well. More coming soon at Corey Baker Filmmaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, we do the weekly podcast, again, 376 consecutive weeks, never missed a week. Corey also posts some movie-related content on his channel once in a blue moon, literally, like twice a year.
When I'm not actually working on movies, I make videos about movies.
Yeah. So you can find me at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks. And robertandcheek.com has links to everything else that I'm working on, books and movies and videos. YouTube link is there as well. So I do want to say thank you to Jim for having us back again. He will probably never again make the mistake of putting us both on at the same time and instead just reach out to us separately because much like ammonia and bleach, very powerful and they do very important things. But when you mix them together, everybody just wants to leave the room.
It also takes much longer, I'm sure, when the two of us are together because we rant too much. But thank you, Jim.
That's also true.
And we look forward to seeing you on the other end and having you join us for another watch along on our podcast as well. And to everyone else, have a great day at the movies.
Wait, what?
That's what there's an old Sasquatch. See you at the movies.
Oh, I get it. I get it. My sign off though, clearly better. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.
Nah, it's not enough Raj for me.
All right, well, thank you very much to O the Anthem and Corey and Rob for being on here. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. They run a great podcast. And check the description below for the list of everything in this What to Watch segment. And thank you very much for being here. And check out their YouTube channels as well as Corey Baker Filmmaker and Rob's Everyman Reviews. I believe it's Everyman Reviews. Either way, all the links are in the description. And thank you very much for watching.